Fizzy, I'd like to start here. What first brought you to Timor-Leste, and what, of course, convinced you to stay?
The ocean. The first job that I applied for was this vacancy with one of the dive centers in Dili and Atauro. So I applied for that job. I'm a dive instructor, so applied for it, and that without too much, again, knowledge of what to expect, because that's how I like to approach like coming to new countries, new areas. So it was the diving that brought me here, because they did offer me the job after the interview process.
Right, so you're a diver. They offered you a job as a dive master?
As a dive instructor, on in-house, yeah, as a dive instructor first. And then a few months in, I got asked to take over and do the management role of the dive center. So I then started managing the dive center and resort. And I was with that company up until 2022. So it was a lot of the diving that you know, and the enthusiasm for the ocean that basically pulled me in here. And what made me decide to stay was that it was multifold. Obviously, as soon as I did my first dive, I was already mind blown. And that was just off of the reef off of the airport. It's very near. For something that's just close to the city, I wasn't having high expectations, but already I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then we did some dives in Atauro, further down the East Coast. So the reefs were just so phenomenal. I was like, I can't find this anywhere else. Decided to stay long, and then started to assimilate myself with the community, with the lifestyle. And that, I think, is a major driving factor of finding a home away from home, where I feel like, you know, it's got very similar values to Malaysia, and yet a quieter space, a more laid-back society, a lot of like community support. So it's just overall absolutely loving the people, the ocean, lifestyle. So it all fitted what I wanted in life, really.
So, but if you go back to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, Malaysians often hear about Timor-Leste through politics or the headlines. I guess, taking a leave of from what you said, what's the reality of living here on the ground?
It's I think it's fantastic, but I mean,
for me, it's like a throwback to the 80s, lah.
Yeah. I think it's that. Well, in the 80s, I was a toddler or a child. I think it's that. It's got a nicer vibe. There's none of this fast-paced pressure to showcase, you know, extreme success or showcase the superficial lifestyle. So I like it. I currently also live in and amongst the Timorese. I'm not in one of those expaty compound. No wrong for those who do stay in those, but I choose to live in and amongst the Timorese. So I'm just renting a small sublet with one of the Timorese families. So I'm surrounded by them. And I know there's a lot of, like, in a way, some sensationalism in reporting, and people still think there's strife and there's unrest and there's people protesting. I think it's just a safer place to stay in compared to Kuala Lumpur, to be fair. I think reality is that it's just a quiet place. People just want to be progressive, start to look at development of the country, but everyone just gets about their daily life. There's a lot of community support. I guess that's my take on it. But I don't see people who love that city life might not find themselves comfortable here, because there's not a lot of like nightlife, or the communities are great. Like, you do have the, you know, expat communities, but I prefer to just mingle and, you know, seep into what normal local life is like.
Right. It was quite hard for us, because as soon as we landed at Lobato Airport, everyone nearly had a heart attack because we didn't have data, lah. So that was the.
There's
big
no
thing.
free Wi-Fi at the airport.
No free Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I guess the next question would be: so you live amongst the Timorese. You choose not to live in the nicer quarters of like we have in Kuala Lumpur, the Bangsas and the Bukit Tungkus and whatever else.
Exactly, the gated communities.
But do they accept you? Was it easy to be accepted?
Yeah, absolutely.
Even when you didn't speak the lingo?
No, obviously, not yet. Tatum came a bit later. Like, even now, I'm not fluent. I am very I'm not proud of that fact. I'm trying to get a lot more better. I listen better than I speak. But because I guess being Malaysian, there was a lot of like also acceptance to being, like taken in and involved with everyone, and they accepted me fine. I spoke a lot of Bahasa, but I apologized beforehand and say like, very sorry, I'm still learning your language and I need Bahasa, like can I speak Bahasa to you? Because when I first came, I wasn't sure how much that offended them because of their history, obviously, with Indonesia. I think coming in with a lot of that respect and openness to also just not enforce any of my life expectations or how I culturally feel things are right or wrong, and just go with what they go. I feel like I've been very well embraced by the local community in there. There wasn't any hostility. They were just very warm and welcoming. So I didn't find any issues with settling in. And even up to now, living in and amongst, they actually love the fact that I'm Malaysian. I also, like now, there's a lot more stronger ties and friendship. And I think the past year, there's a lot more involvement between Malaysia and Timor because of the whole ASEAN ascension. They're a lot more excited also of the fact that, I come from Malaysia.
Yeah, but it's interesting because, we met with policemen, who had the full gear on. They were very able troopers. And when they found out we were Malaysians, they started hugging us and telling us stories of them training in Malaysia, and we've learned so much since we first arrived 4 days ago. Now, Malaysians have been involved or are involved in different areas of Timor-Leste's growth. Where do you see your own contribution fitting in? And I do know you sort of help the government here to something to do with the blue economy. Can you please talk to us about that?
So I got asked to...
Not to be confused with the Blue Ocean in Malaysia.
No, not the Blue Ocean. So Timor-Leste, as when the ninth government constitution came into place, I think they started to make blue economy a priority because they understand that they do need to diversify the economy. They're very oil and gas reliant now. But obviously, it's an island nation with a lot of maritime resources, so they want to shift the focus. As and when they did this, I think because I've also had a lot of experience working in and around the ocean, all this while, then in 2023, I got asked to come sit with the newly formed Blue Economy Unit that worked, and we were tasked to work on creating the Blue Economy Policy and Action Plan for Timor-Leste, so for 2025 to 2035. We actually just released the provisionally approved draft to the public for consultation last week. So that was my role was to help provide insights on very specific sectors, namely the marine tourism development, because that's my expertise, and also conservation, and how those two can also just correlate, because obviously when you conserve and protect reefs and areas, spaces, you can counteract the fact that, like, if you're taking away fisheries, for example, fishers can't no longer fish from there, but you can replace it with like tourism type modes of income, so they can then become boat captains or snorkel guides, or gain money for we call it Tarabandu here, like marine park fees, marine protection fees. So that's where I come in. So in terms of like even overall, I work a lot with the youths as well, so it's really trying to like give them a lot of exposure as to what sectors like marine tourism or even conservation can become job opportunities, and then helping them upskill in those areas, because I've been blessed by having swimming lessons from a young age and being put into, scuba diving lessons because I could afford it. So now we're trying to get a lot more Timorese youth to learn how to dive, to learn how to snorkel and appreciate what's there, right? Yeah. So
let's take a look at where Timor-Leste is at this point. A session to ASEAN, the 11th member of ASEAN. Everyone's excited. We are excited about it, especially us in Malaysia. Now we've got Batik Air flying in already. Westar has also got helicopters here. Just a lot happening. Now, from your vantage point, you work with the sea. Of course, there's going to be an influx of people coming in. There was Bali, then everyone started talking about Lombok. And with that influx, you need to find balance or equilibrium, whether it's the Laut or it's the Pantai or whatever. Are you concerned about these areas before the rush hour?
Quite. And actually, it has been a mission somewhat of mine to get this concern out and have action taken, because even way before the ASEAN Ascension, as a dive professional who's also seen so many other reefscapes and ocean, what the ocean can provide in terms of tourism, even not even going into other areas or industries, just for tourism, the potential in Timor is huge, because just what it hosts is phenomenal. But then there aren't enough, let's say, legislations or processes in place to allow for a very sustainable way to grow this. Timor-Leste, I guess, there's a plus side and a negative side. The connectivity wasn't great before. So up until the pandemic, we knew it wasn't a big rush, that it needed to be done, but there wasn't a big rush. We had time to try and put legislations in place, carrying capacities. Like, for example, Ataro, you can't just suddenly open it up to 5,000 visitors a day, because that's going to ruin what it has, right? But so now that there is a little bit more connectivity coming in and coming with ASEAN, so there's a lot more awareness. And usually I noticed that the past year and a half also, just the amount of Malaysians coming in, looking at business opportunities, looking at investment opportunities, and even ways to support and help Timor. There is a little bit of a worry so that it doesn't explode overnight. And I think that's on the Timor side. The private sector, the public sector needs to work together and ensure.
Are they having conversations now about this?
Yes, yeah, especially now with the Blue Economy Policy and the action plan coming in place, there's a little bit more, I would say a little bit more structure into how we're going to look at this. It's all it's all located and, bulleted and saying yes, these are the area we do have to prioritize. So I think that movement is there, and the energy to do it is there, and we are now, again, on the other flip side, we're opening up ourselves with ASEAN support, with a lot of expertise from other island or coastal nations that can also address and say, look, we did this wrong last time, now we're addressing it. You guys have an opportunity to get things done first time right. So I think it's worrying, but there's a lot of promise and hope also. No, it's not, not all negative.
If you're going to simplify this, the blue economy, for friends in Malaysia and ASEAN, or the policy, what does it talk about once again?
We're looking at, so simplifying it, nation's GDP, I think, relies on about 87% right now. It's on oil and gas. So that's also part of the maritime sector. But it's not blue, or it's not falls under that whole sustainability thing, because everyone knows oil and gas extraction, it's not very sustainable. And Timor doesn't have that.
And does this tie in with the carbon capture thing also?
We would look at carbon capture utilizing mangroves, so that is another aspect. So we're looking at fisheries, expanding what Timor can do with its fisheries sector, marine and coastal tourism and marine tourism sector, aquaculture, things like seaweed farming and things. So we're looking at expanding that, because if you take away oil and gas, or when it comes to the maritime sector, contribution to the GDP is only about 20%. So 87% with oil and gas included, take that away, is only 20%. So that has amazing room to grow. Also, with an island nation that's only got maybe about 15,000 square kilometers of land area, but close to 100,000+ square kilometers of maritime area. Exclusive economic zone is about 58,000 square kilometers. So we're basically, for the people here and for people outside looking at maybe opportunities, we're looking now to the sea. What are the resources we have there, from energy to carbon capture to fisheries to sustainable tourism, everything that can be done in a sustainable manner so that future generations can still benefit from it. And so that's the current shift where the government is trying to look at. Yeah.
With the young people watching this interview and saying, hey, I want to go down the road FIZZY took and come to Timor-Leste and work here in the blue economy, what should they upskill themselves with before making their way here? Or what skill sets are you looking for here in Dili with regards to those who are going to be contributing to the...
I think a lot of the contribution, I prefer the focus of passing on what knowledge or what experiences we have to the local communities, to the Timorese, because they've got a huge young population that's looking into job, like job opportunity expansion. Most of them are really tied to the nation and go, no, we don't really want to go out. We want to contribute to the country, but we need jobs to do that. So if we have expertise in Malaysia who can come and be willing to do a lot of upskilling and training, so not so much you doing the work, but you teaching how to do a lot of this work, from researchers in the marine space, where there's not a lot of like marine baselines, because when you want to collect data, you want to know what you can do, there needs to be a lot of baseline data. That's a gap. Tourism, again, skilling up in being able to host guests and understanding what the international sector wants in terms of safety or comfort or services. Malaysia tourism has done such an amazing job, no, we have to say, but probably we're not quite good at conserving it. So maybe we can translate that into, hey, if we had a chance to do it better, this is what we would do, and now we're going to help and teach you. So I would encourage a lot more of that, like investing in the people of the nation and let them run how they see what's best for their country, you know? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'd like to move to ASEAN. Now, let's talk about the mood of the people for a while. So we are all talking about Timor-Leste's accession into ASEAN as the 11th member, blah, blah, blah. We're going on and on. But what's the mood among the people here with regard to this? Is there excitement? Is there, are they hopeful that things will change for them? I guess I'm also seeing that they want to try to move into modernity,
Yeah. I think that excitement, I'm feeling it. I think there's a mood of hopefulness from the young. I tend to work a lot more with the youths, the 20-year-olds, the uni students, the ones who are new to the job market. There's a sense of hopefulness for them, and yes, like you said, I do agree. They do want to see progress and development for the country. Not so much for them to just be like, oh, I want to be this massive, successful Singapore-type city. I think they just want a lot of even distribution of, opportunities to their whole nation. There's still a huge percentage of people living under the poverty line. So I think they want to be able to see that this is changed. And there's optimism, but I don't think it's so much tied to ASEAN. There has been optimism in their hearts since they gained independence, and they just want to see growth and a lot of energy. Like, I feel like there's a lot of positive energy from the young who do see like bright futures ahead, provided they're involved in the nation building process.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So another thing I see here is the public sector, and I see a lot of enthusiasm from the public sector. A lot of it is about learning from ASEAN countries and bringing expertise here, or sending their people out to the respective ASEAN countries to learn. Now, with that said, the other thing that stands out to me, of course, we were told, come here, interview the president, do some big ticket interviews, and then we find out there's another big ticket, one which comes in the form of a person, the ambassador of Malaysia to Timor-Leste, Dato' Amarjit Singh Sarjit Singh, he says, mention his father's name. And the other thing is the Malaysian community here. You guys are so close-knit. Talk to me about this.
I guess it stems off of this place being small, small nation, small population. So I think even from the get-go, that Malaysian togetherness was built from the start. The diaspora has grown so much over the past years. Like when I first landed in 2016, the embassy was the one who actually came to my workplace and we heard a Malaysian dive instructor is here. It's that small, right? So the embassy's done a great job at reaching out and making sure all the Malaysians are, addressed and covered. And Dato' Amarjit has also shown a lot of dedication and energy into, creating the bonds between the two nations. Played a lovely role in supporting, even like for the public and the private sector, because he's always pulling us into dialogues and allowing meets, networking the relevant right people, making the right connections. So that has been great. And
speaking of great, I need to bring up something else here. Tabah di Timor, this video put together by the Embassy of Malaysia to Timor-Leste, and you guys were all featured in You. There's Jeremiah, there's Pak Idris.
Pak Idris, Andy, Gia, Michael. There's So these were mainly the old timers.
He calls this the Council of Elders, or at least
oh my
that's what
God,
the
I don't know if
ambassador
I
says.
should be. I have my white hair, but I don't want to be the Council of Elders. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, we were tasked that. Like he wrote me in. It was an idea brainchild of his, which is fantastic. Because like we need to tell the story of the diaspora. Because I think it's that because a lot of that public perception is like, what is life there like? That's why we focus on interviewing the questions about people telling the story of how they ended up here, how is life here. It's a good film.
So while Timor makes this transition, and now that we're here and we find out these stories that we love Malaysia. Malaysia's helped us for so many years. Malaysia's our brother. They go on and on. I guess I want to bring in the analogy of the cream crackers. I mean, when there's a flood or a musim hujan in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, we take cream crackers, people not knowing whether they need it or not. Now, coming back to this question, how does it tie into the question, if we want to support Timor-Leste in its transition, what can we do better? Or what should we think about?
Ooh. Good question. I think it's a lot of that. I see it like this. I would use this analogy. No, not really biscuit Mari. I think it's that first, I think get to know what Timor needs from their own people rather than, because I think there's a lot of, when you see these young nations everywhere across the world, there's a lot of outside elderly, more older nations telling them what to do. But I think you should need to be that big brother or big sister that has a younger sibling who has his own personality, his own likes, his own preferences, and just be there to support them and guide them along the way with what they want, what they are asking for. So I would say that's the best approach. Because we are very similar in some sense in the culture, like a lot of strong family ties, strong family values, strong religious values, but two of like different religions. But there's so much of this commonality, yet there's also a side element where Timorese have their own, in a whole national sense, their own personality that's quite different from all the Indo-China type Southeast Asian nations. That's how I find it. It's a lot more Pacific Islandy, if you notice. So then that difference you have to understand and just support and aid them along the way, right? And I think that's why Malaysia is a best friend to them, or a big brother or big sister to them. They do see this like slightly more mature country that has shown great, examples of how it's done things, and they could emulate, right? But to do it the way they need to do it, the way they need to progress themselves.
Right. There's two things left. One is hard sell on what you're doing. If someone wants to come here and dive, look for FIZZY, I'll do that.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
And if you can send one message back to Malaysia about Timor-Leste, what would that message be? Do tell.
Get to know their culture and their history, because I think that gives, and that takes a bit more time, I think. I think what you get at face value, there's a lot more layers to what Timor-Leste is, and I started to know and learn about it and be familiar with it over the years of living here. And I think that's what's important. Don't let your first experiences or first impressions make the whole concept of what you think Timor is. So multi-layered. Their history is phenomenal, especially what they went through to gain to independence, and
how they are very, with what they went through, they're such a forgiving people.
Forgiving and resilient, but also then not to be taken advantage of, right? So I think that's my main message out. Like, really get to know them, who they are, and understand where they're coming from. And I think you'll have fantastic relationships built out of it. Yeah.
Right. So I spoke to a foreigner who was here here to dive, I think, and I said, how do I find out about the ocean? He said, if you want to swim with the blue whales and know about biodiversity, look for FIZZY.
Oh my God,
what can you tell us about this FIZZY? Yeah, so I mean, you've swam with whales, you've seen the depths of the ocean. What's it like?
It's, again, mind-blowing. It's like you're transported.
Can you send us some mind-blowing pictures?
Well, I could. Depends on what you want to do it with it. Yeah.
I mean,
It's-
to of course, show it to the rest of the country.
I guess, that's so much because it's like traveling back in time. A lot of the reefs in the world are 80% bleached right now. Timor-Leste's reefs are not bleached. Super healthy corals, reefscapes that stretch for miles. 28 species, different species of dolphins and whales have been sighted in the waters here. So there's all these magical encounters to be had. But to be fair, I'm actually moving away so much from the front end of the tourism sector because I'm trying to build the Timorese pipeline to do this. So don't look for FIZZY. But look out there, there's a lot of operators that are doing good work and putting people in the water and understanding what things are. But yeah, scuba diving, we have not had, I think, anyone who did water activities leave Timor with a less than 5-star review. Most of them go, we've enjoyed it and it's been phenomenal. And I think it's quite nice to have that underrated marketing thing going on because people come and go like, we heard it's good but not sure what to expect. So most of the time I like to not share the ultimate photo because I think people need to experience it in person.
MUFIZAH MOSLIM, aka FIZZY, thank you so much. It was a pleasure and an honor. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me. Yes.